And I know we had an hour down, but thank you so much.
Yeah. So it's just us for now.
Yeah, so I'm the one that called the meeting, and I guess I'll just introduce. So Chris and I both work at United Way, Rhode Island. Chris is a housing policy expert, and I am on the, I'm a data analyst. So we're not on the same team, but we have a lot of the same stuff that we work on. And so we're currently working on analyzing some data from a rental assistance, like some CARES Act money that we that Chris managed for us. And so I've been digging into some census data, and I use Tableau for mapping. And so I have been finding out that census data is a very, very, there's a lot more to it than I sort of originally thought. You just go on the census website and you just click what you want. And so I'm learning a lot about ACS data, and is it PUMS?
Yeah.
Because on the website, they call it, like there's this website, iPUMS, but they call it IPUMS. And so I've been learning about that data, and I've been learning about, but the thing is, like, to map it, we need to be able to obviously like cross-reference all those GeoIDs. And plus we have our own data that we have, like street addresses, and we can get census, like maybe from the census, like address batch tool, you can get longitude and latitude, or you can get, I think you can even get block ID and things like that. But I haven't seen, so that's sort of like where I'm at so far with figuring out how to download all this. And I have figured it all out, sort of, but then obviously PolicyMap is this amazing tool that hopefully can get rid of some of that process. So I guess that's where our interest in PolicyMap came from. I don't know, Chris, if you want to add your part to it, but.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think this is sort of new for United Way to have administered a program for the state, to have all this data on the private rental sector in Rhode Island. It's a statewide program. And I come from a background in policy and research, and I've been working with Adama, who is the director of the research and evaluation with Jen, to really talk about how we can write a report and analyze the data we have for the next stages of the emergency rental effort in Rhode Island, and just reflect on what we have. And based on sort of how I think about the data, a lot of that is about mapping, and a lot of that is looking at who was able to serve and who wasn't served. And so we've been coming up with like a list of research questions to sort of dig into, and it just keeps coming up that we need to look at them on maps. We need to look at all these indicators on maps and different overlays. We don't have like a GIS master on staff, so we are using the tools that are available, and Jen's been great to just like dive in head first. So that's where we are.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like I think you love PolicyMap. It's going to save you some time and help.
Yeah,
for sure. I was just curious. So with your data that you have, is that mostly, so that's going to be address level? You have it at the address level for all, like any recipients? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So,
and we also, I mean, as part of the, sorry to interrupt, but just to give a little more bigger picture context. So this would also be a tool that we could use in general for analyzing United Way program data. And so that may be at different levels, but for this particular project, yeah, we do have address level.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I can walk you through some of the, functionality and then in some of the data. I mean, there's a ton of data, census and otherwise. And then I can also set you both up with logins with like full access. So you're both like data people, so you can explore more on your own too and see like wheels continue to turn, and think about, how you could use it for different things. And yeah, and we can also talk about more about your data at the end if it makes sense in terms of, you'll see that there's a self-service data loader where anyone can upload their own address level data and have it's a really easy geocoder. So it will, geocode your point data for you easily, and then you can overlay that with the other data in the tool. But most of the subscriptions also come with a certain amount of what we call like custom data loading, where you have a contact on our data services team who can help you load your data with just some more sophistication really than what you can do with the self-service feature. So if we have time, I can show you how you just upload your own spreadsheets of addresses really easily. It just, takes a minute. But then if we have time, I can show you maybe like other kind of customer data and how, we can do things like you might want like aggregations, right? So if you have, it's a lot of points, right? We can map that as points and put filters on it and stuff, and use that for overlays. But we could also do, if you want more like a kind of heat map that can, to see where, concentration, who kind of be able to see, kind of more easily like who was served and who wasn't, when looking at that in relation to other data. You might want like aggregations of those points to a block group or a census tract or a zip code level or something like that. So we do that kind of data, all the time as data loading for our subscribers all the time as well. But yeah, and then, in terms of other United ways, I don't know, are you pretty familiar with PolicyMap in general? Do you want me to give you a second like overview? Are you pretty familiar?
I've only dabbled with it. I'd love to have a tour of it.
Yeah, I've used it previously. I was working for basically a policy think tank out of Roger Williams University, and I had access to the university. So yeah,
they have access for sure. There's about 150 universities that have access. Let me just look. I'm trying to share my screen here. Hold on a second. Oh, there we go. Yeah, and when I was telling Jen before you got on, I'm from Rhode Island, and I'm excited. We have a number of different subscribers in Rhode Island, like Rhode Island Foundation uses it quite a bit, and Rhode Island Housing, there we go, uses it as well. And there's been, I can't remember, there's a few other ones as well. But I guess before I log in, just in terms of, so PolicyMap, just so you have a sense of why it was created. So we were built PolicyMap was built like maybe 13 or 14 years ago by a community development financial institution so a CDFI based here in Philadelphia called Reinvestment Fund. So they're basically like like a nonprofit bank. So they finance things like community and economic development projects like affordable housing and supermarkets and low-income areas and federally qualified health centers and childcare facilities. So they started building it for their own internal use originally to better understand the neighborhoods they were working in and to try to be more strategic and impactful in the work that they were doing and the loans that they were making. And so our user base initially after it was created was other CDFIs, these nonprofit banks that had a similar needs. And then, at this point we have it's like 13 or 14 years later, we have a very, very wide and very diverse user base of like every kind of nonprofit you can think of, lots of different types of philanthropic institutions using it for internal use, and also some making it accessible to grantees as a way of empowering them to have access, and use up-to-date data and mapping. And then we work with a lot of state, local, federal government agencies, like I mentioned, Rhode Island Housing. The Department of Health in Rhode Island has access, I believe, as well. And so, yeah, a lot of state and local and federal agencies, and then universities, which I mentioned. And then we have a growing number of users in like healthcare, as the focus on health equity and social determinants of health is, rightfully come more front and center, and the appreciation of all the connections between all this other data, relates to health. That's been kind of the most rapidly growing user base, but that's just a little background about PolicyMap. And the other thing I'd mention before we kind of dig in is that, having been built, 12 or 13, 14 years ago, in the tech world, that's a really long time, right? So we were due for a new platform. So our development team had been working for a number of years on a new platform, which is what you're looking at now. We released what was a beta version of it probably 6 months ago now. And that's the main tool that I'll show you, but there's still a few features, really kind of two big outstanding features that are still being incorporated into the new platform, like using the self-service data loader. So for that right now, we're currently in a place where users can toggle between this new version, and then up here you can toggle to what we call legacy, so the older version. So there might be like a moment or two, a few things I want to show you where we toggle back to the old version and then come back and look at it in the new version. So hopefully not to confuse you too much, but.
That's really helpful, because when I tried to explore what we had access to, one of our directors has a login to PolicyMap, but I had to keep going to the legacy because I haven't been using it in a while. And so I was very confused first.
Yeah.
That's really helpful to know. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's super exciting because we're on, new technology where that one thing that's really, it's better, which is, so that's always good, but it's also, it makes it so much easier for us to continue adding features. We're always getting feedback of things our users want. And so yeah, we kind of maxed out what we could do with this older technology. So now what we've built, it's really easy to continue improvement and do it, adding new things. So it's exciting for sure. But yeah, when you get a login, when you first log in, you'll go to this newer version, and then you can toggle up here if you want. So yeah, I guess, if we zoom into, say, Providence, so you can type in city, state, address, zip code, or you can zoom into one of these locations here. We can also put, if you had custom geographies in Rhode Island, we can incorporate those. I know there's like health equity zones, and I'm sure there's other geographies. And then these menus is where you'll find all the data. So I know you mentioned census data. So, that's definitely more than 50% of the data in the tool is from the census. What we generally use is the ACS, the American Community Survey 5-year estimates, just because is kind of the best in terms of the coverage and the quality of the data for mapping. We do get some requests for the PUMS data that if there is data that you don't see in here that would be really important that comes from another source, we can talk about loading that in for you. We definitely do get some requests for PUMS sometimes, but there is a ton of census data in here. And then there's data from altogether, I think at this point, it's about 150 different sources incorporated into these menus. So you'll find, that there's quite a lot.
So do you have consumer data and things like that as well? Or what other types of data are there?
Well, so, other than census, the next largest, there's data from a lot of other different federal agencies. So whether that's like HUD, right, and housing, the BS, Department of Education, FEMA, the CDC, HRSA, HMDA, we have a lot of lending data around, So yeah, other federal sources, kind of most federal agencies put out some kind of data. So we have most of that in here. And then other than that, it's there's a variety of other sources, say from things like, incarceration rates. This is a census tract level data set that's by, it's called Economic through the Census and Opportunity Insights. These are researchers. Raj Chetty leads it if you're familiar with him, but there's all different sources that are in the data, that are represented. And if you want to get more information, like, so say, if we look at something like social vulnerability, which is this is from the CDC. So there's a kind of general vulnerability measure, and then there's 4 component measures. And so this is just a quick example. like if you are looking at this map and you are like wondering like, what does this mean? And like, where does the data come from? You would look here in the legend. You'll see that there's this I. So this is where our data team puts the, initial, what we think, is kind of most important for users to know about the data. So in this case, it's telling you, what social vulnerability is referring to, right, where the data comes from. So the index is comprised of these 4 categories of vulnerability, how it was created. It was created using 2014 to 2018 ACS data. So if this gives you kind of more information, and then you can always click here to our data directory, and that takes you to our data directory, which is where our data team goes into even more robust detail about all of the data sources. And you'll always have links back to the original source, and then there will be more information about the data and any caveats, or if it's data we created, that's where you get more information about like the methodology that we employed or that whoever created it employed. So this is kind of where you'll find the metadata describing what you're looking at. And I tend to there's a lot of different ways to adjust the map aesthetically. I tend to like to take the roads off, but you'll see there's different base map options, and you'll see you can put some transit on the map, or you can change a lot of, labeling and map features, and just, for your own aesthetic needs. So yeah, and you'll see here, so this is from the CDC. And then if this is a case where there isn't other time periods available, but if we look at something like, I'll just say people in poverty as a quick census example here. So this is showing you % of people living in poverty. This is from the most recent 5-year ACS period. And so you'll see that when you hover, you're seeing the value this is at a census tract level. This is showing you here. And then if you click on the map, you'll see the value and the trends in that particular area. So in the census tract, the poverty rate is around 36%, and you see the benchmarks, comparison to the larger geographies it sits within, and also change over time, right? So most of the census data is going to have multiple time periods. So you can see how, in this case, poverty is changing in this neighborhood. So you can see this trend chart, and then you can also add, if you want some larger geographies, if you want to see, these benchmarks, right? Compared to the state or the city, the nation, the metro area. And then these, if you want to export these trend charts, you can do that via either PNG file, so like an image of the trend chart, or you can extract the data in a CSV file. So you see there's a lot of different ways in the platform to extract your work, either in extracting the data in CSV files, or extracting images, downloading reports. So this is one way of doing that.
Wow. So it will extract, you can extract a CSV at any level of granularity that you're looking at?
Yeah, there's different ways of, yes, there's a number of different ways to download. And so say, for example, if you wanted to download data for Providence, right? So we already have this boundary. Since I zoomed into Providence, we already have the Providence boundary on here. And I'll just put I'm going to add a point data set as well, just to show you how you can download either the address level data or the layer data for an area. So let's put I'll put nonprofit locations on the map as, so this is a nonprofit locations data set from the National Center for Charitable Statistics. You can filter, all the point data sets are going to have filters. So if you wanted to, just pull out the ones that are, working and, housing related, right? I can pull those out. So you see, if you hover on one, you'll see the, information about that location. And so when I click in this boundary on Providence, right, this little icon, you'll see it has, it says list and table, and then in download. So this is basically allowing you to query data for that particular boundary, which in this case is the city of Providence. It could be any boundary. So if I go to table, for example, this is going to give me in this sidebar all of the poverty rates currently at the census tract level, but you could adjust that if you wanted the data at the zip code level instead, or something else. You can select a different geography from what's available. So this is giving you census tract level poverty rate data for all the census tracts in Providence, and then here's a download button, right? So that's going to give you a CSV file, and then you'll have these FIPS codes right here. If you did want to join it and use it elsewhere, then you can do that. It's like an easy to join, formatted FIPS column. So yeah, that's one way of extracting data, especially if you just need it for a particular area. And then you'll see if there's a point data set on the map, which in this case, we have the nonprofit locations filtered, just to show the ones that work in, that do housing or shelter kind of work. So if you select that, now it's giving you querying all of the housing nonprofits in Providence, and then you can see that in this full table kind of with all the information and available about them. And then there's a download button here so that you can download the address level data in the same way, just kind of through this sidebar. In this download, from the sidebar download, or I mean, any of the downloading works the same way. If you had your data in the tool as well, right? Whether, so your rental assistance data, and you want to query it in different ways this way, or, if you uploaded, you want like 2-on-1 data, whatever it is, there's all this functionality will apply the same to data we've uploaded for you, if that makes sense.
Wow. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't try to do all this by myself.
Yeah. And then there is clip, like if you did, some people want to see a map like it's an island, you can clip if that's what, something you want to do. You can get reports for areas, which I can show you. But I want to show you just a little bit more with the legend. So in terms of this, this layer data here. So if you, so one thing, you can look at toggle to different time periods if there are other time periods available, right? So this is census data going back to the 2000 decennial. You'll see different variable options. So this is defaulting to show you the percent of people in poverty. But if you want to see the number of people instead at a census tract level, you can select number. And now see, you're seeing the number instead of the percent. We also calculate percent changes where possible to make it easy to see visually, in addition to the trend chart, how things are trending, right? So in this case, now what you're looking at is all of the census tracts with the darkest orange have seen the greatest decrease in the number of people in poverty over this time period. And those with the darkest purple, like right here, has seen the greatest increase in poverty over that time, right? So you'll see, just depending on the data that you put on the map, you'll see different variable options here, right? And then you can adjust the color ramp. So if you're gonna print maps, which there's like a print icon over here, you might, if you want a different color ramp besides purple, you can edit that here. And you can adjust the ranges. So this is always like defaulting based to, shade based on all the data. So in this case, all the census tracts in the nation. So if you want to see more kind of nuance within Providence, you're seeing a lot of like the dark purple, you can edit, or if you wanted for some reason see, over above a certain threshold, right? You can just move these scroll bars, or you can just click in here and edit these. So you can see the map just kind of responding, right? Or you can also change the number of ranges if you don't want it to be 5 ranges. And then the legend is kind of smart. So if you just want to look at one kind of range, you can just kind of click on it, right? So that's pretty cool. And then this is showing you the geographies the data is available at will just depend on the particular data, which I'm sure makes sense for you. So having, given that we have data from so many different sources, they're all this will vary depending on what you're looking at, right? So with census data, it'll generally go down to a census tract, or more often a block group level. But it's some data you look at might only be at a county level or a zip code level, or something like that. So that's like the single layer, but where things get even kind of cooler is that there's this multi-layer feature, and that part of this is new with the new platform. At least it's greatly improved upon. So this is what you could toggle if you want to look at, say, poverty, you know, in relation to your rental assistance data, right, that we've loaded in for you, or if you want to look at, say, poverty in relation to something, you know, housing cost burdens, or, you know, life expectancy, you know, like kind of looking at different variables from these menus in relation to one another, then that's where you could use the multi-layer feature. And this is also something that can be really helpful with, you know, we've a lot of foundations, you know, want to use PolicyMap for like kind of that, you know, strategic kind of grant making and, you know, and planning, right? And then like what you were describing of, you know, looking at who was served, you know, loading his historic or, you know, data from certain programs, getting a better sense of who was served and who wasn't, right? And making plans for future like investments, right? So there are two different ways of using the multi-layer feature. If I toggle to this, I will show you there's basically an AND function and an OR function. So as an example, my internet's not great. So also you can start with the AND function. And so basically this allows you to use up to between 1 and 5 you know, variables. And it's basically going to show you where the first thing is true and the second and the third. I think my internet's not doing super great today.
One thing we're definitely interested in is households with children.
Okay.
That.
Yeah, we can start with that one. So if we go to demographics under households, so any particular?
Single with children would be interesting, or, oh, yeah, there's lots of categories. I wonder what that would look like, or if you had to do a larger category.
Let's try. So basically, with the AND function, so when you put the first variable on the map, everything is shaded purple because it's showing the full option. It's showing, you know, census tracts where 0 to 80%, you know, basically the full option of ranges is selected. But if you want to then hone in on areas with like a higher percent of households that are single-headed with children, you can either just move the scroll bar or you can click in here, right? And set the threshold that you're interested in identifying. So right now, all of the purple areas that we see are areas where 15% or more of households are single-headed with children. You can just adjust that, you know, to whatever range you want. And then is there a particular, like another kind of layer that you would, you know, you'd be interested in kind of looking at in relation to these areas? Or do you want me to pick something?
I mean, we could do housing cost burden. That's pretty easy. That's pretty close to what we're looking at in terms of.
So under housing, we'll see, I assume we can do renter cost burden. So you'll see there's a number of different options. You can do cost burden. There's extremely cost burden. I don't know if you have a.
Let's do the larger first, just cost burden.
Okay, sounds good. So when you add the second variable, the purple areas won't change initially because it's going to be showing the full, you know, 0 to 100% here. I'm sorry, my internet does not seem to be fantastic right now, but it's coming. But basically, then we'll be able to adjust the kind of parameters on the second layer. Trying to be patient.
Already with that first indicator, single with children, it seems like high concentrations. I wonder what the numbers are there.
Yeah, see, and you can click, oh, there we go. Click on the map. So I'll show you. So if, you know, we set this, I mean, this probably has to be pretty high. We'll go 40%, right? So now you see, these are all areas where both of these things are true, right? And then if you click on the map, you'll see the value for the 1 to 5 variables that you have used. So you can see exactly why it's shaded purple, right? So in this census tract, 46% of renters are cost burdened and about a quarter of households are headed with children. So you can add additional variables, you know, if you want to see, yeah, look at some like other demographic variables or yeah, anything else. Or if you want to look at, say, just another renter variable, if we just want to see what the what the rentership rate is, you know, what percent of people are renting in these areas.
We could put the our eviction data in there, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of this is available, you know, by race and, you know, by other kind of specific breakdowns as well. And we do have population and subsidized housing as well. And that's at the census tract level. That's data from HUD. And that's, yeah, that's really great renter data as well. But so here, you know, if you want to see, so yeah, you can get the idea, right? So you can, there's many different kind of ways of using this. But, you know, if you're trying, it can be helpful for the and function, especially can be helpful for targeting certain types of areas. And then you can also then overlay, you can use your layer data if we've loaded it for you in here. You can also then overlay, you know, locations, right? So whether that's data from us, if you want to see where HUD public housing, you know, locations are, you know, in these areas we've identified, you can put those on the map, or, you know, other HUD multifamily properties, LIHTC, you know, any of the, we have all of these menus have like address level data as well. And so then you can, yeah, that could also be your point data, you know, if you wanted to see where the rental assistance went, you know, and where it reached these, you know, areas you've identified and where it didn't, right? This will give you a pretty good visual on that.
And then do people download, sorry, do people then, if they want to do, if Adama wanted to do statistical analysis using these data, would she then download that and use SPSS or whatever to do that? So okay, so PolicyMap can visualize it for you, and then you can download the data.
Yeah, yeah. The most robust like download feature, I can show you that interface in the old platform. That's, we're still incorporating that into the new platform, and it's going to be even better, where you'll be able to select like some multiple like time periods and different things like that, which you currently can't do. But yeah, you can like then download even a list of like just the purple areas if you want, or just the points that fall in the purple areas. So that's like, it's a more advanced kind of download option, you know, so that gets used a lot. But I can show you, if you want to see in the other platform, kind of how that more robust interface works. Right now, what's available in this new platform for download is basically through that sidebar that I showed you.
Right.
But that's just,
I mean, just knowing it's possible is
yeah.
is
So
amazing.
it's possible and it's easy. But yeah, there's a lot of people want to, identify places and then look, you know, upload a list of addresses and find out quickly which are in those, you know, types of areas, or, you know, be able to use federal guidelines, you know, want to know which areas are eligible for which federal programs. And so you can easily, get that information.
I have two questions. I don't know if I could just jump in. My first question is, like, when you're overlaying all these different data sets, so if we have like the first couple layers are the census, 5-year estimates, and then that point data, like how often is the agency data? Is that an annual upload from like HUD, et cetera? What are the time periods?
Yeah, so it varies. So we have a data team, which I used to work on, that, you know, spends all their time keeping the data and the tool kind of as up to date as possible and researching new data sets and whatnot. So, I mean, with so many sources, and they're all released, you know, the updates from the sources are released at different times. So they basically try to, you know when to expect updates. So they're constantly updating data. Almost all of it, the vast majority is updated annually. But that doesn't mean it's updated all at the same time every year, because it just really depends mostly on when the source releases the update. And then, you know, of course, whether we can, if we can get to it right away or not. And so, with the point data, for example, like if you want to know when these, when we last updated the, had public housing data, if you click here, you'd be able to find out in our data directory too, like when it was last updated in PolicyMap. But these are all updated. Yeah, most of it is updated annually, just at different times during the year. Like the census data, which is again the more than 50% of the data that's released. That update is generally released in the second week of December, and then we have it up within a week or two in the platform. But it does vary by the data source. So I just want to show you real quick the OR function, just so you can get a sense of how that works. So basically, instead of showing you where the first thing's true and the second and the third, it will allow you to overlay data. So I'll just remove one of these and use the same data on here. Oops, I'm gonna make this blue here, one of them. So this isn't probably not the most compelling example. We could pick some other data, but this is showing you basically, instead of just showing you the areas of intersection, it's allows you to overlay, right? So we're seeing that the blue are all areas where a fifth or more of households are single-headed with children. And then this side hatching is where 40% or more of renters are cost burdened. And I'll just move this up to a little bit higher to make it a little bit easier to look at, 50%. So, and you can again do this up to 5 variables. So if you want to, there's many different use cases, and we just added this OR function with the new platform because we had so many requests for it. But it really, it opens up a lot of possibilities, and really allows you to say, kind of adopt a look at, race or ethnicity or, anything else in relation to any other analysis that you're doing, right? By, you could overlay, race and ethnicity variable or, anything else, right? And so there's a lot of, there's different reasons that you, would use the AND function or the OR function here. Yeah, I just want.
Can you cluster? Can you put brackets around 2 ands and then do an or? I mean, this is very nitpicky now because this is so awesome. No. I feel like
you're speaking my language, but no, you can't do that yet. We just got the OR function, but you can't yet.
But you could download the data from an AND function and then upload it and then do an OR, I guess, maybe. I mean, not that I'm just just hypothetically speaking, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And another, so yeah, those are both available. And then there's also a custom region feature, which I wanted to just point out at least. So that allows you to, create an area of analysis, or if you have a target area. I mean, some people do use that, you could use it along with multi-layer maps. Like if you, use this to identify these neighborhoods here, and then you wanted to create a kind of region of these census tracts to be able to query and do more, analysis on generate reports or download data for, you could create a custom region from that. There's basically 3 different ways to create a custom region. So one is to draw a region on the map. So, following street boundaries. The second is to assemble geographies. So, in this case, if you wanted to assemble, some of the census tracts that we've identified in Providence, you could, use that. And then you basically just select which geography you want to assemble. And then, say if I wanted to just, I'll do these ones that are over here and kind of in the same place. Oops. All right. So I could just call this, target area for lack of creativity this morning. But so basically you can see now, let me remove that Providence border. Right, so I just created this target area that we identified, and then it's going to live here in my custom regions. And then you can kind of use it with that same functionality that, with what I showed you for that city of Providence boundary. Right, so you'd be able to query, if you want to find out, what public schools, just something random. or elementary schools are in this area. Or I'll just put public schools on the map, right? Something like that. You'd be able to, it has that kind of smart functionality to it. So you can query the layer data, you can query point data, anything, within these custom regions that you create. Basically you click here. And you can also change the color and edit it by changing the color, the transparency, or again, if you're going to be printing a map and you want your target area on the map, so you can edit that. So there's, let me just get out of single layer maps to have a little bit less going on. So that's the second way of creating a custom region. And then the third way is to do a radius around an address. It's around a location. So yeah, if there's like a particular, housing development and you want to do a, get a quick overview of the community within, 3 miles of that address, right? You could do a radius around it and then generate, reports for it or query data for the region. So yeah, those are 3 ways of creating these types of custom regions. And then here you can see they're saved in your account, and you can also then share them with colleagues. There's a lot of ways of sharing with each other when you want to. And so if you create custom regions that apply to across the organization or, with other colleagues you're working with, you can share those as well through the platform. Any questions about like the custom regions or the multi-layer? I know I just, kind of been running through a lot of things.
No, I mean, I'm just glad that we reached out, because this is an amazing tool. And, I had gotten as far as getting shape files uploaded into Tableau and sort of like got this data. And I mean, this is a million years ahead of where we would have been if we tried to do this manually. So, I'm ready to just start asking you about like licenses and all that. But Chris, did you have any other questions? Or
I guess my question is, because I have been trained on PolicyMap, at least the older version, and creating, maps in it for download. But what we're really seeking to do is we're going to create, based on our research questions, several maps to be interpreted. And then we're hoping to, create sort of a policy brief around that. And I'm interested to know, once you've downloaded a map or a visualization, is it just a matter of citing PolicyMap and then the respective data, or are we able to use it in that way to embed those visuals into a document that we sort of publish locally?
That's a really good question, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Our maps get used in all kinds of publications and, peer-reviewed journals and everything. And, the main thing is, we just ask to be like mentioned. And there is a link you can see here to how to cite us. But so you can check that out, but it's pretty much, like, that'd be great if you can just mention you got your data from us. So yes, but it's totally fine to put maps in the reports. And I didn't show you, I don't know when the last time you used it was, Chris, but the, might be the print interface might be a little bit different than, so let's just say, so we'll just, say you just want to make this, this basic map here. So you just go to print here, and it could also have, it could be much more complex than this. But you'll see there's, a lot of aesthetic things you change on the map before you come here. But then once you get here, there's a lot of like kind of customization. So you can zoom in and zoom out, right? You can select text size, layouts, landscape or portrait, print margins, PDF or PNG. So if you're putting it, that what you're doing with it will dictate, which format makes the most sense. You can decide if you want our legends or not. And then we changed this so that, people wanted to be able to have our title or give it your own title, right? Since generally you're creating a map, it's like telling a certain story to put somewhere, right? So you can actually just click in and give the map its own title, and then you can also either have our data layer description, or you can also like update, give this its own, text as well. So you can really easily kind of create the map. I already showed you how to clip if you wanted to do that. And then you can have whatever you want going on with the map and zoom in how you want it. And then you can really give it like its own title and paragraph of subtext. And then, with all the customization, hopefully the goal is that then it should be hopefully easy for you to just incorporate into reports and other places. It says policy map here. But you're pretty much able to customize everything else about it and decide if you want our legend and everything else. So that's this, having our policy map right there is kind of the way of, obviously you could cut it out if, we can't stop you from doing that, but yeah, that's how the print interface works at this point. So then you get your PDF or PNG file. And we do have a share feature, which is mostly, it's like partially done in the new platform. So if you can like email a map to somebody, or post a link to an interactive map to social media, or generate a link to an interactive map if you, and that would be through this feature right here, but the print is right there. So yeah, it's, you're definitely welcome to use PolicyMap, and I would just check this citing section of the site out.
That's great. I think the last time,
we just again ask, like, yeah, if you're using it's fine to like use our data. The big thing to not do is like if you've downloaded our data to, and then you create derivative work with it, then giving that to others is fine. But yeah, the big thing we don't want you to do is like download the data and then, provide our like the raw data to others. If that makes sense.
definitely, that makes sense.
So yeah, do you have any other questions, or do you want me to show you some more of like the kind of downloads, or extracting our data and how that interface works?
If you think it, yeah, definitely if you think it's worth, if it's not something that I would be able to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I think
in terms of,
okay.
No, I'm just in terms of whether this tool in general can be of use to us, and whether I'm excited about sharing this with my boss, Adama. She's a PhD sociologist researcher that is leading this new impact research and data analytics team. And I'm excited for her to watch this recording, and I'm excited to share with her about PolicyMap. I think given that we have 9 minutes left, I think I'd love to know like what, what are the license sizes, like in terms of how many users we need to purchase licenses for, and approximately how much do you think that would be, and all that. She'll definitely want to know that information as well.
Yeah, sure. So do you have a sense of how many users you might want?
Not many. 5 at the most, I would say. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think that sounds like 5 would be reasonable.
Like you, myself, Larry, Adama, yeah.
Yeah, I think from what you've described, the premium subscription is what would make sense. So what that provides is anywhere between 1 and 10 logins. So you can land wherever you want with that. You can add, start with 5 and then add others if you want. And that gives you access to, for all of the, up to 10 of you, to everything in the platform. And there's nothing excluded. You can all use the self-service data loader, which, I can show you at another time if you want, or, as much as you want. And in addition to that, it does come with a certain amount of custom data loading. So, which I think you'll want to take advantage of that. So, whether that's some aggregations of your rental assistance data, so you can see at like a block group or census tract level or zip code level, kind of distribution in different ways. Or, there's probably a lot of data you have in-house that you might want to load in beyond what you can do with this data loader. So that comes with generally it's around 5 data sets of custom data loading. And it can also include a public facing like interactive mapping tool for your website. That's just optional. Some premium subscribers get one and some don't. Like I could show you some examples like Rhode Island Housing or some other ones, but and that is $5,400 annually. And I'm pretty sure from what you've described that's.
And that's per license or for all 5 licenses?
Up to 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the one thing, there might, it would be worth, probably not now, but having a little further conversation, once you explore it more, we could talk more about the data you want to load in. And so the one thing is, I can get a sense of if you have more data that you want to load in beyond what like the allotment that comes with the premium subscription, then we just can talk about that and then give you a cost estimate for once we have a sense of how much work it is to load that in. And then if just to make sure that your data loading needs would be covered. So I don't know enough about exact kind of quantity and complexity of what you'd want.
Yeah, I could see there being more than 5 for sure.
Yeah. So that might be like the thing that would bump up the cost at all, but yeah.
Right.
Well, I just had a question in the 5 sort of data sets. Is that, so the rental assistance data, that program has ended. We're doing like post-program analysis. And so that's one data set. Something like the 211 data, for instance, because I know that's an ongoing thing at United Way. Would it be like every time you upload, it counts as one thing? Or like if there was an annual or quarterly upload or refresh of that data, would that?
Yeah, it
How do
generally
you
include like a quarterly update. Some of our subscribers want, quarterly or biannual updates to their data. So that would probably be included. It kind of depends. So if you want the point data with filters on it, like the way we were like filtering the, those nonprofit locations. And I could even just show you, one quick example of some kind of like investment data if it is helpful. But yeah, we would have to just talk a little bit more to understand, like we know data pretty well. We get it from a lot of different organizations. So it really depends on the, just how much work it is, and so some of the details are kind of important to be able to really tell you how much of that fits within the premium subscription, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't know enough about the 211 data or like our donor data. I don't know what else a donor or Jen would be interested in mapping, but those departments, I don't know what the back end infrastructure is. I'm familiar with the rental assistance.
Right.
I think given how broad our mission is at United Way and the different types of, how many funds we have and how many RFPs we release and grantee portfolios we have, I'm sure there would be more than 5. I'm just thinking, I guess there's always the option of downloading the PolicyMap data and then manipulating it in Tableau, but it's kind of like, why would we when we could upload it to this and it would be so much, so much easier. So, but $5,400 for up to 10 licenses is, I can't speak for the powers that be, but I'm excited about PolicyMap and what it can offer us.
It's a pretty definitely a good price for what you get. And I can set you up if you want with some trial like logins, and then maybe as a follow-up, we could have just like a short conversation with whoever it makes sense. Like once you've had a chance to play around with it more, just to talk about your data and just so we can have a good sense of what you want to load like off the bat and what part of that, how much of that we'd be loading. And then I could give you an estimate if there is a price beyond the $5,400. But that might make sense. And I was just showing you
because we've never.
This is just like, so this is just reinvestment fund investments. They have, they have other data they use internally, but this is just one that has just some basic features like filters on it. So they can filter out, the investments that they made in 2020. And then if they want to cross filter, see that which early childhood education investments did they make in 2020? Like where were those, right? You can like cross filter. So this is a common thing that organizations want, is to like have their portfolio, you know, their various program data in like a data set with like filters on it. So you can then kind of use it in other ways. And then this could, again, later I could show you examples if you want of like aggregated subscriber data where you can see it in like a more of a heat map. But this is just to show you kind of like an organization's data, right? If they want to see all the early childhood education, you know, investments that they've made over time, and then they'd be able, you know, to do things with this. So they just have, yeah, this could have like any different like number of filters. They have one, you know, to show yes or no, where the new market tax credit projects are, you know, so they can color code and see, you know, where the NMTC ones are. But yeah, we have a lot of organizations want filters on like, you know, it could be outcome things, you know, like the number of people, you know, youth served, or right, the number of jobs created, the number of the grant amount, right? We'll just think about all the fields of information that you have for your data, and then you can think about like which filters would be helpful, or like which aggregations of like subsets might be helpful. But again, that's like another conversation, I think. But just, you know, that would be the part that might add to the 5,400. But yeah, I think the premium might go really far. Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I'll share as much as I can, and obviously if you can share the recording, that would be great. And if you can share a login, if you wouldn't mind also providing one for Adama who couldn't make it, that would be great. I think you have all of our emails on the invite. Do you?
Yeah,
okay,
I believe
great.
so.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I don't really have any other questions other than I'm looking forward to playing around with it, and I will get back to you as to when. And also we have another person in our department, our director, Larry Warner, I think would be interested in this very much as well. So
great.
We'll try to arrange something with all of us in a couple weeks or a week or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to look at schedules. I know people have a lot of meetings.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, if you want to set up a time with the larger group to do something like this, or it could, you know, we could focus it in a different way too. I'm happy to do like a second demo as it makes sense, you know, second kind of walk through, or, you know, where we talk more about your data, and also we can show, highlight some of, you know, functions and stuff for the others as well, and give them a chance to ask questions. So just let me know if you want to shoot me some times, feel free, and I can let you know what works for me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.
I really enjoyed it.
Yep. And my colleague Zen will be setting up your login. Keep an eye out for someone named Zen.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll hopefully see you in Rhode Island one of these days.
I know.
If our office is open and all that, you'll have to stop by.
Yeah, I have visited Rhode Island Foundation before when I've been there. That was before COVID, but now that, you know, things are starting to feel normal. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much again. All right, no problem. Take care.
We'll look forward to getting those logins, and I'll circle back. Thanks so much.
Yep, no problem.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.